We always thought, well, there'd never be a fire in the Palisade. It's so densely populated. You know, if there was a fire there, there'd be a million fire trucks there, and they would just suppress it right away. 40 block square was completely devastated, including our house, burned to the ground. We moved up here to Sonoma, and of course you can't get fire insurance here because fire came actually right to this house.
And so the Nuns Fire pushed right across Kenwood, which is about 2 miles down the hill from us, and it ended up stopping in the backyard of the lower caretaker's house here.
And we knew that when we bought this place, and so we've been doing what we can to mitigate any kind of fire risk.
Hi, I'm Cary Gloeckner, owner of Firescape. I started Firescape in 2000 after realizing that as a fire captain, I wasn't making too much of an impact. It was really a coin toss as to whether we were going to save a home or not with an engine and a crew at scene. So I thought there was a better way to do things, and that was taking the time to evaluate homes ahead of time through my business to tell people what their risk exactly was, because most people honestly don't know. They can read all the literature, but until you get somebody like me who has been in fires, who's done structure protection and almost died doing it, you're not going to get the same answer. You really want to have somebody like me come to your place and tell you exactly every little detail as if I were here to protect your home during a wildfire. I really don't want to let all that history and knowledge and skills go to waste, because every time I turn on the TV, it seems like we're watching another town burn down, and we're watching somebody on the screen in tears because they've lost everything.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
And so that's really the impetus of why I wanted to do this business. So with my business, I offer the risk evaluation of your home. I also do high weed mowing and brush mastication. But today's video is really going to focus on one home that I've been working at now for about 6 years, getting everything very squared away for them. And the owner wanted kind of a final evaluation and risk assessment to let him know, have I done everything possible to be prepared for a wildfire and the embers that are going to shower upon this place. So let's take a walk. Here with Steven, we're going to do a walk around on his house. He's asked me to do what we call a fire hazard risk assessment. And so I actually met Steven about a year ago today, who bought this property I've been working on for a few years, but he is actually one of the people that we really love in the fire service and in the brush management and vegetation management business, because he's taken to heart all the things that we've asked them to do and more. So we want to focus right now on looking at what we call Zone Zero. The basic idea of this is to make sure that the area within 5 to 10 feet of your home has non-combustibles. And we'll go now and walk around and we'll point out the things that need some attention, and we'll also point out the things that he's done really, really well, which there are a lot. One thing, Steven, that we can do a little bit of work on here is just the continuity of fuels. And what I mean by that is the plants that we have here are these kind of grassy plants, and I have these same ones at my house, but what you really want to do is separate them out just like on the other side of a house, keeping each plant individual so that if one plant catches fire, it is less likely to spread to the other one, or it is less likely to become fully involved and move all the way across the landscape.
So Cary, I had a question about this whole area over here. I was a little concerned about it, that if any kind of embers got in here, that this overhang is so low. Should we eliminate all of this plant material and put gravel here is one of my questions. And then another one is do we need to get rid of this tree because we love this tree being here?
The house is beautiful. The tree is actually limbed up appropriately. So what you've done really well around here is you've eliminated all the things that can burn and cause fire to go up a tree. So embers hitting a madrone like that, I've never seen it. They're actually hard to get a madrone tree to burn. So this is a good species to have right here. The only problem is that it does drop a lot of leaves that you'll have to maintain. So you do have a lot of leaves, just even right now, where the wind likes to eddy them and carry them in right here. The ground cover, eliminating a little bit more of the bark in here would be good. We also noticed too, like, make sure your vents, wherever they are on the house, have the proper screening. So they should be 1/8 inch to 1/16 of an inch. Or if you can put on Vulcan vents, they're really good at keeping the embers out. And that's, on this type of structure, embers is the name of the game, that we want to control those portals of entry. So Anywhere that you can see a hole that's been drilled through the siding, or you have pipes going through, you got to really make sure those are all tightened up. And you can use screening and stuff it in there and use some fire caulking and put those two things together and plug that hole.
These vines that are over the kennel, is that an issue, or is it just small enough that it's just not a big deal?
My recommendation would be is just pull these out of here and remove that stuff. It's very similar to having like a wood fence or a wood gate that goes out into the wild where it can catch fire and then burn towards your house. So Steve, we're on what I would call the B side of the structure, and we're looking at a couple of things around here. Obviously, number one is all the leaf litter and stuff. Within the 100 foot of your defensible space, you're gonna wanna keep this really raked up nice and clean. Since I was here last, I also noticed that you've done some tree work along here, so you've gotten yourself the 10 to 15 foot of space from tree branches around your home and your roof. So that's a good thing that you've done so far, but you actually had a question about this limb right here.
Yeah, I didn't know if we should take this limb off if it was too close to the house, and if there was in a fire that could fall on the house and maybe be a problem or something.
In fact, you make a great point. Right now it meets the code, but what I would say is when we look at this, back on the top side where this branch meets the main trunk, there's kind of an open scar wound there that is perfect with rotten wood that can catch embers. So in the Palisades, all of us remember looking at the Palisades and the Eaton's fire and wondering 2 days later, why are these houses catching on fire? Embers that get wedged in some place, or let's say nobody had spotted through all the leftover just meandering smoke that's still within the fire footprint. Something can catch fire in that little rotten spot on the top and then burn through. So this thing could fall, cave in the roof here on this little structure and light it off, and then, you know, next thing you know, you've got fire breaking through the window just above us to the right.
Right.
But I think that was a good point you made here. It meets the code, but we're looking past that. We want to make sure that your house doesn't burn down or get affected by this.
This grove of trees over here, it's pretty dense, and I'm just wondering if there's any benefit to maybe judiciously cutting some of these trees and thinning this area out.
And this is again the BC corner of the building, but this is the predominant way where the wind's going to be blowing. It's also got a great upslope of grass. And so what you're concerned about intuitively is right, and that's what we call in the fire service is laddering of the fuels. So you have some way for a grass fire to climb up into the trees. So incidentally, live oaks and manzanitas have probably some of the most flammable leaves that you can have. They'll ignite, they're full of a lot of oily material on them. So right before they start to burn, you'll actually see them look like they got wet. And so what we're concerned about here is the effect of the grass leading straight up into here. So to alleviate some of that concern is we want to selectively remove some of these smaller live oaks. So you want to keep like 5 or 6 of your best species here and get rid of all that brush that's below them. So clean that out and then reduce the number of trees there so it's not a wall. So you want to be able to kind of look through the trees. Remove all that stuff out of there so you'll be able to clearly see through it. And then there's a few trees here, like this is a great candidate. It's a split trunk live oak, and it's got some dead stuff in it here too. This would be something to take out. And then as we move over to this way, you can see anything that's less than 6 inches diameter breast height. It's, you know, about the size of a soup bowl. Those are easy ones to be able to take out because you don't want to clear cut this. This is not what we want to do. Shade actually retains the moisture down in the ground here, which is very good for keeping flames smaller rather than larger. And then be able to see through the canopy. And a good way to judge if your canopy is too enclosed, when you look on the ground here, I see about 80% shading. You want to be about 50-50 sunlight to shade. Another good benefit of that is if you do have fire that's right up against the house and we have aircraft overhead, when they drop the retardant, it can actually get down to the ground.
Right.
And that's what we want.
Right, makes sense.
We're on side C of the structure. For most people, that would be the back side of your structure. I've been going around, we've been looking at various things, but the house has stucco siding. It's got double, if not triple pane in some places, windows. And it also has the proper size screen and vents. We're looking at 1/8 inch or 16 inch or Vulcan vents. Also, recently there was a study that came out that said the distance between the side of the structure where your siding meets the stem wall, which is the concrete part, you want to have about 6 inches or more. Incidentally, where we're at now, if we look off to the left here over my right shoulder, is the footprint of the Nuns Fire from 2017. And what really gave this inspection probably the most importance is that this is the primary direction of travel. If you have to prioritize, look at it from a standpoint of where are those big winds going to come from. For us here in Sonoma County, it's normally northeast winds. Those are really the primary winds. Very interesting concepts that you as a homeowner can use, and that is wherever water runs downhill its fastest, that's precisely where fire is going to go uphill fastest. And so the Nuns Fire pushed right across Kenwood, which is about 2 miles down the hill from us, and it ended up stopping in the backyard of the lower caretaker's house here. This is a segment where you're going to tell me and show me what you've learned. So what do you see around here that you know that I'm looking at and that I might mention?
Well, if the plants are really close together, they should be spaced out a little bit more.
Yes. How about, and this is a good one to point out, is this is not a vegetation that I would expect to have a lot of fire in.
Yeah.
But per the code and stuff, you don't want to have anything planted and growing right beneath the window.
Right.
So if a bush catches fire, it's going to crack the glass and then it's in the house.
Right.
So what else have we covered so far that you're noticing?
We've got mulch over here all the way right next to the house, and maybe what we need to do is like have that gravel path, like have just a little gravel border.
How about behind us here?
Well, I don't want you to tell me to get rid of that beautiful draping plant.
I'm not going to.
Okay, good.
I will tell you that could present a hazard, but on the list of things, especially since you have the frontline sprinkler system on,
Yeah.
I don't see that as a big problem. You know, you have to make this choice. This is your acceptable risk level.
Right.
I could say, yeah, the safest house is to live in a concrete bunker with no windows
Sure.
and no vegetation,
Sure.
but who would want to live there?
I don't know if it's kind of a semi-succulent, this ground cover that's over here, but should that really be taken away from that, at least, 3 or 4 or 5 feet away?
Yeah, so a good compromise on that, I think, is if you go 5 feet, right?
Okay.
And it's not that will necessarily burn, it's all the stuff that's underneath.
Oh, I see.
The grasses that you have here, they've been trimmed really well. Keep that spacing. Each plant is recognizable as its own shrub.
So Cary, this looks pretty open over here. Is there any concern that we have here in this backyard area?
Pretty sure this is synthetic turf, right? And
This
was here before you bought the place.
Yes. I think this is going to be bad.
Looking into this stuff, the synthetic turfs, are almost all of them that I know of, are made with hydrogen petroleum products, right?
Sure.
So long chain hydrocarbons.
Right.
That's basically gasoline. For me, it's really important that this does not catch fire. As a firefighter being here, this is going to be probably a primary concern. And we're exactly right in the direction of where the wind's blowing.
No, sure.
And the wind likes to blow here because we've got a perfect opening
Exactly.
between the buildings.
Oh,
so
and
you're
it does.
funneling it right here.
And it does.
What kind of chairs do you have sitting on top of there too?
Wood, of course.
Wood and wicker. So like wood Adirondacks are harder to burn, but sitting on plastic, they'll burn really well.
Yeah.
It might be something to consider going to lawn, or what I've done around my house is I use decomposed granite. Get that zone 0 where you're focusing on little things that can burn. Anything that you think can burn probably will. During the Tubbs fire, what we saw was plastic trash cans, plastic recycling bins. Those were just melted down everywhere. Your trash cans and recycling outside, maybe move them into the garage during that fire period. If you have those wicker or Adirondack chairs that you love so much, take those and put them inside. Especially do not leave anything like that under a window. If you have something like that that's free burning and that much heat generating, it's gonna crack the glass and it's gonna break the window and let then all the rest of the embers inside and burn your house down. We have a super cool pizza oven. It's built all of concrete and everything else. It's non-combustible, but we have a nice wicker basket with the dog's tennis balls, which, this is, again, just like everybody. My house is no different than everybody else's, but something to be concerned with in fire season is that this basket could potentially cause a fire. And then if we look down below here, this is where the firewood is stored to run the pizza oven. So a simple solution to mitigate the hazard and the risk of this is he's decided we're gonna get some sort of a metal screening to put on there and screen it out to keep the embers away. And this material, it's all, it's a typical shade cloth. It's made of plastic material. And yes, it will burn, but what I witnessed during the Tubbs fire. What I saw that happen, and this was exemplified by looking at a trampoline that was still in the backyard. It's virtually the same material, and the embers, you could actually, it was a good judge of how big the embers were because they'd land on it and burn and drop through. So if this, quote, sale was over something flammable, I'd definitely be saying, you know what, Steven, you probably shouldn't have this. It's gonna catch embers, and it's gonna drop and melt and cause a big fire, right? But what we have is a beautifully manicured hardscape with lots of succulents. There's only a few flammable bushes in here, and they're trimmed very, very well. This is super low risk. I would say if you had a fire that was dropping a lot of embers on your property here, the worst I think is probably gonna happen is you're gonna have holes melted through it. If this was my house, I'd leave it up. Okay, we're on the back side of the house. You have walls like this all around your house. When embers hit them, they bounce off and they land right at the bottom. So the first 5 to 10 feet or so should be mulch free. You can use a lot of the gravel type of pathways and stuff to make around your house. So it doesn't have to be a moonscape. It doesn't have to be bare earth. It just should be something that if I were walking along with a pail of embers from the fireplace, spilling them randomly along, that you would know for sure that that's not going to catch the side of your home on fire. So if you follow that around, zone 0 is probably your primary concern that you need to start working on. Second would be the roof and gutters. Make sure your roof and gutters are clear and free of combustible materials. And again, that zone 0, that 5 to 10 feet around your home is super important. From there, start working out to the 100 foot of defensible space. But what I wanted to show you here is an example of how a nice defensible space should look. We don't want clear cutting. We don't want to see that. We want to see an environmentally good, safe approach that leaves good specific trees in good locations and eliminate the ladder fuels. You can see down through the woods. Underneath these trees, you can see that all the ladder fuels down there have been trimmed up. So what we want to do in the 100 foot defensible space is keep the fire down on the ground, not in the trees. If it's already in the trees, which is what we would expect coming up this canyon, and that's what it did the last time in 2017, we want it to arrive at the defensible space zone and transfer out of the canopy and back down to the ground. And that's what your defensible space and limbing up the ladder fuels does. It puts the fire back on the ground, and it gives firefighting resources a chance to come in here and go direct on the fire perimeter. So what we're gonna go do now is this is the wildfire risk assessment. You know, this calculates quantitatively and then qualitatively what your risk score is. So the bottom line you probably want to know, you're already looking at it.
Yeah, no, sure, exactly.
Out of 250 points total, you want the lower the score, the less risks you have. So your score came up to 82 and you're in a moderate hazard. And so as you address these things, probably the biggest one that you can work on is the reflective address signs. And want to be able to let firefighters know, make it as inviting as possible for them, because they want to go and stay. They really want to go to work, but get them to there and let them know where they are. Then we go through fuel models, things that you can change, but you got a very low score on that. The slope is not something you can change, it's still a low score. And then there's all this structural ignition factors, and then going down to existing building construction, which you got all zeros on there because you really have no flammable building construction that's exposed on your house.
Main house, right.
But I flew the drone over first thing and looked at your roof very, very carefully, looked for openings, unscreened this, unscreened that, looked for leaves, everything was really good. So it gives you a great score. You're at a moderate hazard, moderate risk with a score of 82 out of 250. And I would say, when I first did this, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe the score was an extreme hazard at 185 points. You basically shaved 100 points off, and it shows because you can look at these structures up there and tell how defendable it is.
Yeah.
This is actually basically a punch list that you can work right down the list and figure out how to make your score lower, which is going to make your risk go down. Okay, that concludes our tour around with Steve and doing his risk evaluation. And I have to say, from a personal standpoint, a lot of my coworkers I used to work with in the fire department, they asked me, you know what, you're retired, you have a pension, you don't need to be working, and why do you keep doing this? What's super important to me is I keep seeing people losing their property, losing their lives, losing their animals, and I know there's many, many things that they can do to make it better. And that's where I come from. It's not just about making a video to sell some inspection or some risk evaluation to you that you're not going to use. The stuff I'm going to present to you could save your life, could save your family's life, your animals, it could save your community. So it's very, very important to me that people realize that there's something you can do, and probably the best step you can do before you start chainsaws and weed whackers is give me a call. We can set up a time and I can come out, and it'd probably take me 2 hours if I spend a lot of time with you, and we'll go through and we'll look at every little thing around your home where embers can get in, where flames are going to be an issue, and we'll discuss this with you. It'll let you sleep better at night, you'll have a plan of action, and it's really worth your time. And I love the fact that I can come out here and use nearly 30 years of fire service experience to help people, because in the heart of every first responder is just the nature to help. So thank you for watching, and give me a call.